Hi, and welcome to BlueCat presentation. Today, we're going to be discussing the configuration of SNMP on BlueCat devices. That's BAM and BDDS. We'll be going through version 2, version 3, and configuration on iTrack.
Okay, to begin configuration of SNMP on the BAM, log into your BAM and go to the Administration tab. Once under the Administration tab, we go under General and then click on the Service Configuration. From Service Configuration, click on the pull-down box and select SNMP. Under SNMP, click on Enable SNMP Service. From here, we can fill out the information as in system name, the location, the contacts, and a description. From here, since we are doing SNMP version 2 Charlie, we're going to click that and select a community string that has to be used through all the SNMP devices that you want to pull. Once you've selected a string and we're using this string as default, we are going to click Update. Now this enables SNMP onto your BAM. We will move into enabling this on a BDDS server. First, we click on the servers, and we'll see our servers list. We click on one of the servers that's available. In this case, we'll use BDDS1. Under here, we'll click down on the name of the server, on the chevron that's going down. We click there. We select the Service Configuration tab. From here, very similar to the BAM configuration, we go back service type, and we use the SNMP configuration. We enable SNMP services. We populate the required data, and we select SNMP version 2 Charlie again. And making sure we have to ensure that the community string matches the community string set on your BAM. Once that is correct, once you verify all the data, you select Update. You go back to your server and it should start pulling. And that is the steps to configure SNMP v2 on your BAM and your BDDS.
Okay, so now let's dive into SNMP version 3. Okay, so we have our BAM here. We're going to first enable the SNMP service. So we need to go to Administration. We're going to go to Monitor Service Management. Now, in this instance, we've got managing the BAM itself, which would generally be done by a third-party service, and monitoring the BDDS servers, which can be carried out by the BAM itself. So then in this instance, let's enable the service, and we can then go, we'll check that and refresh. Yep, good. And then we'll go back to administration, go to our configuration, click on SNMP demo. And what you'll find is that you'll have then defined monitoring settings appears in your configuration. So we're going to change this to version 3, and we're going to then basically create a username that's required. I'll add that, and then we're going to set the security level. Now there's 3 security levels within SNMP version 3. As you can see there, you've got no auth, no priv. Basically, that's the lowest security level. And what that does is that bases all the security around the user name. There's no password, there's no message encryption. And to be honest, it doesn't really add much more security than you get from version 2. So the next one down basically is the middle level security, which is your auth, no privilege. And this has a username and password, but no message encryption. But it does mean that when it will use the password to create a cryptographic hash value for the message, which both sides, either the BAM and the BDDS, have, and they use to recognize each other. So it does kind of sort of prevent a middleman attack. The final one is the strongest of the three, and that's the auth priv. And that basically enables username and password, authentication, and a privacy password. So I'm going to enable the strongest security level. Now this brings up basically the authentication type and also your privacy type. So for your authentication type, you have MD5, and you have SHA. MD5 is basically faster and SHA is stronger. So in this instance, I'm going to set up SHA. So I'm going to give it an authentication password as well. And then for privacy type, you have DES or AES. And basically AES is better because it uses less computational resources and is stronger. So for me, I'm going to select this value. And again, I'm going to set up another passphrase. And then I'm going to update. So I've put those values in to the BAM for help to monitoring the SNMP server. Now, I can then go to the service itself the servers themselves, and I select the demo server. And pretty much what was demonstrated before about configuration, I've actually already gone in and configured this up prior to this presentation. So I've selected SNMP, and as you can see, I've already put some of the details about the BDDS server. I've selected version 3, and then I've replicated the same authentication passphrase and privacy password, and obviously used the correct types. So that's all up and running. So let's click on update, and then we'll go to server. And so one thing to look for when you're doing a live demonstration is missing out some configuration as you go through. So if you go back to the configuration, administration configuration, and select your configuration, and then define monitoring settings, don't forget to select monitor all managed DNS DHCP servers. And with that, if your settings are all correct, then you'll get SNMP version 3 working on the BAM, between the BAM and the BDDS server. Now, one thing to note, there basically are some instances, particularly with Cisco, with external monitoring devices, where you need to be able to provide the engine ID of the device. So the engine ID is basically a unique identifier for SNMP version 3. And in our case, we use engine ID type 3, which uses MAC address as to make up the identifier. Now, when you enable the SNMP service, this will create the snmpd.conf file. So you can find the location of that in the var lib SNMP directory, and looking for the snmpd.conf file. So ls, so that's created. So we can then basically do a grep for the engine ID for the snmpd.conf file. And in this case, you would take everything after the X. So you just ignore the 0x and then basically take all the digits after that. Now you may find that the SNMPD.com file is basically created when you enable the SNMPD service within the GUI, but you may be asked in advance for the engine ID. Unless you actually have all the details put into the GUI interface, into the UI interface, then you're not going to be able to enable the SNMPD service via the GUI. But basically, you can get around this by enabling the SNMP service by the command line, and then you can just disable it. Great. So in this case, you use PSM client. And you would do node set SNMP enable equals 1. In the case, this is already running at the moment, but so it won't make any change. And then that will create the snmpd.conf file. You can then just grep for it, or actually just open the file and look through for the engine ID. And then if you need to turn it off afterwards, until you've been given all the details from your SNMP monitoring team, then you can turn off the SNMP by just simply putting SNMP hyphen enable equals 0. And that's it. So basically, I will now hand you over to our iDRAC and for SNMP, if I can find the right slide. So let's bring that up. There we go. So go.
Right, so to configure the BDDS to send SNMP traps to the destination server, we first need to log into the iDRAC. So if you type in the IP address of your iDRAC, you will be presented with this screen. You will then need to log in with the root password or an administrative account. Once you're in, you'll see the dashboard and the various tabs on the screen. The first thing we need to go is to users. Click on users up here and then add. We go into the user account settings. So you can choose any ID. For this example, I've chosen ID 13. So you pick the ID that's not in use and then set a username for the account. So for this example, I've gone with the username SNMP. I've set a password on it. User privileges, we don't really need to set any admin rights because it's just sending traps. So I've set that as none. And then if we scroll down to the advanced settings, we can see SNMP version 3 and it's enabled. So once the account's set up, we go back to the main dashboard configuration and then system settings. In the system settings, we have alert configuration. So if we turn alerts on and then scroll down, you can see quick alert configuration. So depending on your environment, you can customize what traps you would like to send. So for this example, we've gone with system health, storage, and audit. And the type of warnings we want to receive are critical and warnings. And the notifications as well, you would have to select SNMP trap. Now the SNMP traps configuration, that's quite simple. So you can choose a number of destination servers where the traps can be sent to. So you just put in the destination IP address and the SNMP user that we created earlier. So the user we created earlier was called SNMP, so that's in there. Little checkbox to enable it. And then again, if you wanted to put another destination address in there, you could. For the SNMP settings, the community string. So this community string needs to be the same across all the devices sending and receiving SNMP. And for this example, I've just gone with SNMP. So once that's all set up, that will then send traps to the destination server. If, for example, a device isn't sending traps, you could use a SNMP walkthrough. It's just a command that you'd run from one of your servers on the network through the Linux CLI. And depending on the version 3 setup you have, you would change the parameters like auth, priv, and the password. And then once you run that, it will just basically pull the object identifier. So like a few string names from the actual device, confirming that SNMP is working and it is responding. Well, that's it for us. We hope you liked this presentation of configure SNMP on the BAM and BTDS, and we hope you've gained some excellent knowledge from us. Thank you.